Good evening, everyone. Let's see. Hey, Mats, Esperanza, hi. How's everyone doing today? It's like, yeah, my cold is getting better. I think today has been the first day that I really felt like it loosened up. So, yeah, I feel good. Nice to at least get to sleep a little bit. And I get to sit tonight also, so that's very nice. I thought today we'd actually try something a little bit new because I want to use today as a day where I don't guide you as we do on Mondays, but instead I'll try to give you something to not think about, something to focus on. I have a little idea that there's just something we can try because it can be one of those tiny things that when you shift your focus in just a little way, you might experience that something you've done for a long time can feel completely different and can help you in some way. So when we start the meditation, I'll just give you some directions on how to use your awareness, just a little bit different, and we'll see if that makes a difference for anyone. I'm trying to automate everything, so I have like a little screen here, and I can see people's chat. So when I come out here, before the first time I did this stream, it took me almost an hour, I think, to set everything up, and it still didn't work. So now I want to come out, I want to press a button, I want to just have everything done, and then I can do the streaming. Because if I'm going to keep on doing this twice per week indefinitely, then it needs to be easy, and it shouldn't take me too long to set it up, and it should be really enjoyable. It has to be something that's fun for me to do, and spending half an hour every time to fix everything is it's not really fun. At least I don't find that fun. I think some people would. Did you have a cold, Esperanza? I can't remember. What was it you said last time? Oh, I thought, yeah, maybe I was the one who said it last time. Yeah, same as me. It just seems to last longer this time. Most of the time, cold just go away after a week, but now it's been 2 weeks for me. Okay, so I think we should get ready. Let's see, just get yourself in a comfortable position. Go, and as usual, we do the Mondays, we have the guided meditations. For those of you who are new, Mondays are guided completely, and then Thursdays we have free meditation, just a group meditation. And this time I'll try something new. I'll give you some directions. You don't need to follow them. If you want to do your own thing, you can just do your own thing. And it's the same on Mondays. You don't need to listen to what I say and follow it. You can just sit along if you want to. We'll do 20 minutes of meditation, and then afterwards, if anyone has any questions, we have open for questions and answers afterwards. So just get yourself in a comfortable position, and we'll start. So as you sit down and prepare to meditate, if you're following the breath, I want you to do something just a little bit different this time. If you're counting like we do, just continue doing that, but I want you to change it so that when you're observing your breath, see if you can see the breath right now. Not thinking about that there's a beginning or an end to the breathing cycle as it goes in and as it goes out, but rather just that there is breath now. And there is just now breath moving around. So it's breath, 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 and then there's a small short pause, and then there's breath, breath, breath out, and there's a pause, 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 and then there's a new breath, breath, breath. So basically you can shift your awareness. You'll notice this when you get it, that it's not really a feeling of the breath as an entirety moving in and out in a circle. More it's like a point breath. It's just breath happening right now. So we're not thinking of a breath, if that makes sense, but rather just breath right now. Now if this doesn't make sense, then that's fine, but just try to observe the breath now, and now, and now. And just do that as you continue either counting your breath or just doing whatever kind of meditation you do. Did anyone try to do the different focus on your breath? And if so, did you notice any difference? Yeah, it can be a little bit different, because the thing is, there's a very good reason why I ask you to do this. We talk about absorption sometimes in meditation, when you get absorbed in your breath, and the way you do that is you kind of lull yourself into it. And you're trying to almost get a bit drowsy. It's like being on. Yes, but my cat bit me in the face. That's good. It's good to practice being present. So if we do the more absorption way, where we get lulled into this calmness, it's almost like being a bit drowsy. You're not really that aware, but it's still what's called samadhi or concentration, but you're very relaxed and you get almost like this. But when you focus on the breath and don't feel the whole wave of the breath, which is something that's very soothing, instead you, in the beginning, I don't know if this was your experience much, but it can sometimes be like it's like it goes staccato. It can be difficult to follow the breath, because instead of having this, like, I am the breath going in and out, it feels like you're trying to catch it, but and you have to widen. That's also why I keep saying we don't want you to focus on a narrow point. I want you to have wide awareness, because when you're aware of the breath now, it's not the breath as in the breath is breath now, and there's a pause, and then there's breath out. That's quite different. It's much more now. It brings you into this moment. And when you're in one of these, let me just do this. So, when you're in one of these non-centric, as I call them, or non-dualistic experiences, you just experience now, and then the breath really does feel surprisingly, remarkably now. There's nothing else, and it's so easy to follow the breath. And there is a kind of like you're trying to catch it, looking after it, and then when you somehow forget to look after it, all of a sudden you're just following it, and it's just now, it's just happening, and it's extremely relaxing, but also very aware, compared to being in a jhana or something that's more of a concentration state, where you get a bit drowsy and get very relaxed. So it takes some practice, but if you try this when you're meditating, and actually, like I said, if you look at this, you'll see that when you focus on your breath, you're not following your breath now. It's more of a wave, kind of. It's coming out and it's going in, going in and going out. It's going in and it's being wavy like that, and you want to focus on like this. See what Mats said. He said, it felt like the breath was broken down into melodies. Yeah, exactly, yes, but I might have been troubled since I was a little bit anxious today. Okay, well, that's exactly what it feels like in the beginning. There's this staccato. Even I felt it now when I started. I could feel the stuttering, and this can happen when you're doing walking meditation. It feels as if though you don't know how to walk, and you're kind of like almost stumbling, because you get this staccato feeling. It's not a flowing motion of walking. It's like every moment of walking, but with a little delay, because your mind hasn't really caught up to this moment, constantly being aware of the breath now, not the breath cycle, but the breath now. So that's again, it's easy when I say this now to say, oh, that's what it's easy to try to interpret what you felt as what I'm saying. But look at this, and it could very well be this is what you're experiencing, because if it feels like this, staccato, like intervals, like you said, then that could very well be you're trying to kind of figure out how to use your awareness, because it's really, all of this is just a matter of figuring out how to be aware differently. And you can do this, but you need to change your mind. Not change your mind, change the way you're using your awareness to experience this. I just don't want to overwhelm you guys and throw all of it out there at once, because then it'll be too much. And what's fun now that we're doing a bit more continuously, and there's some people like you guys who actually keep coming back, then it's easier for me to go into more depth also. And I'll try to bring in some more elements of the actual practice, because first we establish we need to be aware of the breath, but then there's nuances to how we do that and things that can come up. And then there's anxiety. Do you want to elaborate on the anxiety a bit, how that felt and how that impacted your meditation? And was it easier? Was it more difficult? Or where did you feel it? How was it being aware of the breath while you had the anxiety? If you want too much, you absolutely don't need to. Yeah, there can be excitement. Many times it's when you feel these things, like the sense of self, that there's something there. It feels like it's here somewhere. This is many times where it comes from me, and it can be an unpleasant feeling, and anxiety is a good way of describing it many times. And when you look at this, so basically you use your breath as your anchor, right? So you're being aware of the breath. It's going in and it's going out, and you try to be aware of now as it goes out. And while you're doing that, there's this thing that like a radio kind of making a buzzing, annoying sound that keeps distracting you, making it difficult to follow. Then what you do is you relax and you try to include that in the whole awareness. That's why, again, also I want you to widen your awareness. And then you won't get swept in completely and identify with this buzzing, this anxious feeling. And eventually when you look around that, you'll see it and you're like, oh, wait a minute. This is just a feeling in my body. It's just a sensation. Why do I equate this to anxiety, or why do I equate this to feeling so bad? And you start looking at this and really observing it through different angles. And then eventually you just look at it and go, oh, well, that's kind of dumb. And then you stop doing it. It's not something you can intellectually understand and stop doing, but you have to observe it. And when you observe it, you realize deeply somehow that this is just kind of a dumb thing to do. And we all do it. It's not something that, like, no, you're exempt from doing it. Everyone does it, just to a certain degree. What about you? Was it Tim? Yeah, good. That's Esperanza. I think it was, your name was Tom or Tim, right? Let's see. Oh, look at that. Perfect. You were writing while I was asking you. Tim, that was it. Good, Mats, because that's what we're trying to. I'm going back to Mats again. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to use the breath. In and of itself, it's just awareness, right? It's sharpening the axe. But then we need to include other things so that we can look at them and see, hey, wait a minute, what's this? And that's what happens when we really let go of big things. You observe them, and then you just, this is like, why did I do this? And it could be just someone saying something. You don't need to feel bad because of whatever reason, and then you allow yourself to let go of it. Let's see what Tim said here. When unpleasant feelings arise, I often feel them like a knot in my chest. Yes, in meditation, I turn my attention to this feeling in the body and visualize untying the knot. At least it works for me. Okay, yeah. So that's a way of observing this. What you can use the breath as the anchor so you don't get swept into it. What you don't want to do is get absorbed into it, so you're feeling this is real somehow. Some people use techniques like that. They visualize something that happens, or like they visualize light shining onto it. The idea is that you want to let go of this and realize that you can let go of it. And it many times feels like a knot, like you say, like a tension, some place that is just not really soft and smooth, which is what we're aiming for. When you're able to follow the breath more like this, it will usually make it so that it's easier to not be so swept away by these things, because you're more now. And when you're really in the now, those things just don't come up. Meaning when you're in a non-centric state or non-dual state, you don't feel these things. They don't come up because they don't exist when it's just now. So by using the breath as a point that we can be aware of now, up and down as it goes, then that can help you to get to that point. Okay, any other questions, or is everyone good for today? Don't exist. I have to think about what I said there. They don't exist. So what this is for me, the tension, the knot, that is distortion. That is what I call friction. In Buddhism, there's something called dukkha, which is translated into suffering. For me, what that actually means is this feeling. I don't believe in dukkha as in the way that it's taught, that it's a suffering thing. Age is suffering. Age is not suffering. The resistance towards age, that is suffering. Otherwise, there would be absolutely no way of overcoming it if age was suffering, right? So when you push against something or pull towards something, then you get this tension, this distortion. And the interesting thing is when you're in a non-dualistic, I don't want to use that term because there's a lot of other things that go along with saying you're in non-duality, but basically means like being in the present moment so much that you don't experience separation. I call it non-centricness because it's not, if I say non-dual, people many times think, oh, I'm a part of everything and everything is me, meaning there's no separation. That's not what it feels like. When you're in a non-centric state, it means that it feels like there is no center, there's no you here. It's not that you're a part of something out there and everything is one. It's that there's really nothing reflecting back here. It's just complete calmness, softness, non-distortion, and everything is just the way it is, perfectly fine. It feels like feeling good, like feeling joy, but there are no pleasant sensations. That might sound a bit cryptic. It would make a lot more sense when you experience this to understand it. So it's not that you're feeling a certain way, it's just that everything is. And when you're doing that, then these knots don't exist. They just can't happen. They're part of the thing that kind of collapse when you fall into and just are like really now. So that's what I meant by that. So the feelings are still there, but there is no one to feel them in a way. No, those feelings are not there. They disappear, meaning the distortions disappear. There is something else, but it's not a feeling. This is really difficult to talk about because it just doesn't make any sense. But there's no sensations that are pleasant. We think of, I feel a nice cozy feeling, so there's a pleasant sensation, right? But if you go out into nature and you have what I many times talk about, there's just this beautiful morning, there's mist, and you can see the morning. There's not really any pleasant sensations, it's just a pleasant feeling, but you're not feeling anything. So that's what it feels like to be in a non-centric state. There's not pleasant sensations, meaning these knots and everything are just gone. It's just because the sense of self is this. The reason you feel like you are here is because of tension. When you let go of all tension, then it doesn't feel like you are here. And that's when you experience non-centricness or non-duality. Let's see what Rither on the Storm Kyushu. Oh yeah, hi. I saw a comment from you from one of my videos. Nice to see you. Martin, I am retiring from teaching and moving to Thailand in June. There is a beautiful and active temple in my neighborhood that I visited many times when they're on vacation. I have never been a part of a Sangha and I hope my daily meditation visits will help me. What do you think? Yes, I remember you writing about that on one of the videos. I think that's a great idea. It's really nice to have a Sangha, means a group of people who practice together. And that's a really nice thing to have, like-minded people. Of course, as I always say, you have to look at what their particular place feels like to you. If it's something that you enjoy and something that you would, a group of people that you would feel good spending time with. And I can't tell that obviously because I haven't been there, but you would do exactly what you're doing. You go there, it sounded like what you wrote. I think you said you went there to read and to write, and you just felt like calmness after you were there. And I mean, that's perfect. That's exactly what you're looking for. And then there's, of course, if it's in Thailand, there's a really strong there is very likely going to be a really strong religious part of it, and that can be fine. I myself am not religious. I'm not a Buddhist. I never, even when I was a Buddhist monk, I was not a Buddhist. I might have talked about Buddhism, but I didn't consider myself a Buddhist, because if I would, then I'd have to ask myself, was I a Theravadan or a Mahayana Buddhist? Because that's different. What happens after we die, and what we were supposed to do in this lifetime, and are there 27 afterlives, or is there 14, or there's like all these different ideas, and if you die in a jhana, then you come to a certain realm, but it might be different in a different tradition. So I have no idea about those things. That's why I don't consider myself a Buddhist. I just really like many of the Buddhist practices. Let's see what Matt says. I think I got it intellectually, but I have to experience for myself. Thanks for the explanation. Yes, and that's a really good approach to have, Mats, because if you think that you understand it by understanding it intellectually, then you haven't understood it. It's not something you can understand it intellectually and know what it is. It's like love. You can understand what love is, but you need to feel it to understand what it is. Before you felt it, it's just concepts and ideas, and it just won't really make any sense. And this is one of those things that just don't make any sense until you experience it. But it's a good thing to be aware of it, because then you'll kind of know what happens. And you might, I mean, the first time I dropped into one of these states, I didn't even know what was happening, and was in a really weird situation anyway. So it was strange for me to understand what was happening. See, thank you, Martin. I am a subscriber. Truly appreciate you. Agree. I am not religious, but Buddhism makes sense as far as being present in the moment and the practice of loving care. Exactly. That's just how I see it. We don't need to involve all those other things, because what happens after death, I just have no idea. I really don't know. And if you think you do, I mean, if you say you are part of one Buddhist tradition, then you have to take a stand on, okay, which one is it? Because they all have different ideas of what happens before and after, and there's a little bit, changes towards that. And if you're a Hindu, then they don't believe in let me see. I think they're the ones who believe in reincarnation, and in Buddhism we call it rebirth. And the difference is that in Buddhism, it's basically your distortions that get reborn, your samskaras, your habits that get kind of pushed into the next lifetime. Whereas if you believe in reincarnation, which the Hindus believe in, I hope I get this right now, they believe that there's the Atman, the ground soul, the smallest part of the soul that keeps being reborn. And I mean, how the heck are we supposed to know that? There's like both ideas, if you believe in rebirth, make sense. So there's just no point in taking a stand on those, because you can never know. And I had just when I was ordained, it was such a funny experience. I was with my lokohandra, my teacher, and we went to a temple, and I think there was some TV recording. They were recording for some festival or something, and there was a man there with some famous guy, and he started talking, and I was a Westerner, and he came up and he's like, yeah, so you're a Buddhist, right? Yeah, I'm a Hindu. And he was really, I could feel like a bit of aggression. I'm kind of, yeah, I'm a Buddhist monk, but I didn't actually say I was a Buddhist. And he's like, yeah, well, the soul exists, and that's what gets reborn. That's the difference between you and me. I believe in this. And I'm kind of like, it just seems so absurd to me. I had been a monk ordained for like a month, and he comes up and gets angry at me because he believes there is a soul, the Atman, that gets reborn. And since I was a Buddhist monk, he believed that I didn't believe that. And I mean, I didn't even, of course, how would I know? It's like I would have read that in the textures we follow, and I'd say, yes, that's true, because it's in my textures. And then the next week I go to another center and say, no, actually, no, it's not like this. These texts say it's like this. So it's just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, either way, it's whatever you want to believe there. So what Tim is saying, that's the catch with spirituality, impossible to put into words. Yes, the things we experience, the difficulty is that it's not really about intellectual understanding. And I think one of the reasons that in the West, things such as is it Advaita Vedanta, or why I don't use non-dual terms so much, because it's a really intellectual belief system where they believe they can figure things out, and they're very focused on what you think in the mind. And I just don't find that important. I believe that it's the correlation between the minds and the mind and the sensations in your body that's important. In other words, the sensations in your body. Because when you drop into and don't feel your sense of self, it's because you don't feel any tension, any distortion. And that's why people say, oh, it's so quiet, it's so calm, it's so peaceful. And all of a sudden you just experience the lights around you, and everything just becomes incredibly interesting. And just by the very nature of being, it's just enough. You don't need to do anything else. You're perfectly fulfilled without doing anything. And yet you can do things. It doesn't mean you just lie down and gurgle saliva and just lie there and feel good. That's bliss, what people think of at least, or being on drugs. But when you're actually experiencing this, it's the most freeing, liberating thing you could ever imagine. Yeah. Interesting topic. It's one of the things that I find most interesting to do, is actually doing these things, not just talking about them, but getting people to experience them, and then we can discuss them from another angle, and we can see how do we find it so that we're more aligned into being there. And there's a lot behind that kind of. It's not as straightforward as it seems, and it's not about the problem. If I say something and you take that face value and say this is what I'm supposed to do, then it doesn't really work many times. Yes, it's a beautiful state, and it's the difference is that the way that I see it as there's basically two kinds of states you can be in when you're meditating. One would be a clean state with no distortion, and that would be a non-centric state, like I call it. But then you can have a manipulation of the distortion, which is when you go into, if you ever heard of jhanas, jhana is a concentration state, and in a jhana you kind of tune. So imagine this is me and this is the world outside, and I push. In a jhana, in a concentration state, you make that wave kind of into a wave that creates, what do you call it, a standing wave, where there's like different points. I'm just making this up now, by the way. But that kind of makes sense, that you drop into like somewhere where the wave is stable, and that's very pleasant. But you still have a wave, it's just that it's a very pleasant wave. And then you can drop deeper and deeper into that. And as you go deeper, this wave gets more comfortable. And one of the things that I notice most strongly is that when you go deeper into the jhanas, your perception widens. So instead of being very narrow in your vision, it becomes very wide. And everything seems to be that the more you go towards this sense of non-distortion, everything is wider, everything is more open. It's not about being close. It's not about this kind of awareness. It's about this kind of awareness, wide things, if that makes sense. And just by listening to me and hearing things over and over, like eventually things just kind of stuck there in the back, and then you'll one day experience, and it will make more sense. Yeah. And here's the thing again, say something like you said there, writer on the storm, is to find inner peace without judging others is just so difficult with all the noise and pollution of the world. So here's the thing, judging is a distortion, meaning I say you're a bad person because you smoke something. Okay, you smoke inside. You're a bad person, and then you judge them, right? But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't say anything when someone comes into your house and smokes. That's why people have such a hard time with this. So it's not about what you say and what you do ultimately. It's how you feel behind what you say and what you do. Meaning that you could actually tell someone like, hey, we don't smoke inside. That's not a nice thing to do. And you might think that they're killing their body because they're smoking. But then you can say without the judgment, without the me, the self being in there, like, yes, I am right. So it doesn't mean you get lobotomized, or like not lobotomized, that you get dumb and don't understand things. And I think this is why a lot of people, it just doesn't make any sense, because that is true what you're saying. We try to find inner peace without judging. But at the same time, that like is doing something that I don't agree with, and son of a, like, and we have that thing. But if we can see that it's not that you can't have opinions about things, it's just that there's a feeling behind that opinion, and that you can let go of. And when you let go of that, all of a sudden it's just an observation. You see someone doing something, and that just doesn't make, if you say you want to live let's say you want to have a happy relationship, right? You want to be in love with a woman. Mats is going on a date. Let's give him some advice. Okay, he's going out with a woman or a man. and he's going on a date. And if we want him to have a happy, healthy relationship, and he says, yeah, but I'm also going to sleep with 5 other people at the same time because I really love sex. We could all say, you know what? That's probably not going to work out so well. Maybe unless like the person you're with is an nymphomaniac, and then that would be okay. So we can still have ideas of, I keep picking on Mats. I'm not picking on you, Mats. I'm just using you as an example. We can still have an opinion about what is a good way to live life. Yeah, I figured it was a good way of how to live life or how to make something work. But that doesn't need to be a judgment. But it would be very difficult if we saw Mats do this for us to say that without like going, oh, that's, yeah, I'm, that Mats, yeah. This is not going to work. And then there's judgment. That's why if you were here the last time when I was talking, I said that when people come to me and I do coaching, or especially when I was sitting with people who came to me when I was ordained or now also, and they come to me and they come with their problems, right? I didn't try to solve their problems. What I tried to do was to make sure that I had no distortion. In other words, no judgment. That I wasn't pushing and pulling towards what they were saying, but instead just hearing what they were saying and seeing, can I hear Mats in this case saying that, okay, I'm meeting a new woman, but I'm also want to have 5 other partners at the same time, or a man. Can I do that without having any distortion? And then after that, I might tell him, you know what? I think if you want to start a new relationship with someone, you need to be on the same page with them. It might be that they're also okay with that, and then that's fine. But you should probably tell them that that's your intentions and see if that's something they would be okay with. So I can say the same thing, but then I had let go of the distortion, the tension, my pushing and pulling towards how I think reality should be and how reality is. In other words, this thing here. And I'm able to tell them without me going like, rah, 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 rah. Do you see what I mean with the judgment? Is not really the problem. Sorry, judgment. Opinions, it's again so difficult to use words because what is there a distortion in opinion? For me, having an opinion has less distortion than saying I have a judgment, because if I judge someone, it's really like I'm better than you, you're doing wrong. If I have an opinion, it's something or maybe an observation would be even less distortion in it, because that's just me observing. Okay, observation, let's use observation. You can still have observations where you observe that doing this is very likely going to lead to this. Former date doctor. Yeah, these things I find them so interesting. It's difficult to talk about, and I'm happy you guys are listening and find it interesting to some degree, because it really is, there is so much behind this, and when you start really doing this, life gets a lot easier, but it's difficult to do because the self comes in and wants to react and want to be right here. And it's more difficult to do than it sounds. But I hope did that make sense? Did anyone actually get part of what I was trying to say? Almost, Mats. That's good. Mats is saying, sounds to me like one has an emotional charge behind it and the other one is neutral. The emotional charge could be due to superiority complex stuff, right? That is almost there. So it's neutral is not what I'm after. This is very important, because and this is one of the things that I discovered when I was meditating. It was that if you go for neutral, which is basically what the Theravadins who do lots of insight meditation get to. I met people who had done meditation, we're talking 10 hours per day plus, for like 30, 40 years. And they were like this, they were very stiff, really, like anything came up and it was like you try to get, you didn't get any reaction from them. They were just really neutral. Anything like they were saying, it's just really, it was so aware, but there was a lot of hardness in there. So it's not just, but you're correct in the first part. One has an emotional charge. The other one is more towards neutral, but that's what I was saying before. I was saying that it's not a happy feeling with pleasant sensations, but there is happiness. So there's a feeling of joy, but there are no pleasant feelings in there. So if you're just neutral, yes, that's where you start. But what you then need to do is you need to actually have a feeling of, I wish I could say loving kindness, but if I did, then people would put so much other stuff in it. So it's a feeling of kindness. Let's say that. Let's say a joyous kindness. Joyous kindness. Is that a good way to describe it? It's a feeling of a happy kindness. A happy kindness or joyous kindness. There's a feeling of acceptance towards other, feeling of wanting to be kind, of wanting the best for the other person. So it's not just that you're neutral and you don't care what happens. You feel perfectly fine no matter what they do. But there's also a feeling of kindness in there, a feeling of happiness, of joy, of softness, of goodwill. Goodwill, okay, let's say goodwill also. Like you want the best for the other person, but it's not I want the best for the other person, but it's just an innate knowing that your life is better if my life is better if your life is better. Such small nuances that make a big difference. When I discovered this with the whole neutral part was when I was going to Plum Village in France, and they focus a lot on joy and happiness. And I noticed when I came there after having been to these retreats where I meditated so much, then I kept popping into and just walking around in these non-centric states almost the whole time. It just happened so naturally because I was meditating less, but I was focusing more on feeling good and enjoying life and being happy with other people. See, Writers on the Storm is writing, I agree with you, Mats P, in the sense that people do get a chance or adrenaline rush by labeling us. Yeah, sure. There's the self. I feel better than you, and there's a superiority complex in that. Nice discussion today. I like these things. Tim is saying, while meditating, sometimes get a rush of immense joy, and I went chasing for that for a while. When it arises now, I try to just acknowledge it and let it pass, as though it's getting entangled in the pleasure might be bad for the practice. What do you think? So they're basically you getting. Are we talking about bliss here, or are we talking about a soft feeling? Generally speaking, whatever you're feeling, we just want to let it arise naturally and just pass if it passes. If it stays, then it stays. But there is a feeling of, so you can have a feeling of bliss. Bliss is like the space that I feel like, whoa, like everything is so, like I'm on drugs kind of. And there's a feeling of like strong, pleasurable sensations in your body. And that is something that is still a distortion, right? And in the beginning, whatever you do, don't try to get away from this. Don't try to make yourself feel neutral or take them away. You just observe it, and eventually you'll see that there is something behind the pleasurable sensations that is peaceful and very joyous. But if you try to take it away, then then you just get to neutral kind of. So if you feel immense joy and a rush of, there can be some kind of euphoria coming up sometimes. And you're right, just let it come, let it pass and see it, and see how you cling to it and want to have more of it. And then these things just come up. I mean, the most important thing is not to get too caught up in it. Bliss, yes, exactly. And it gets stronger when I concentrate on it. Well, try it. I mean, don't be afraid of it. It's not like it's bad. I mean, I don't see that as a problem. It's more that when you start chasing after it and you think, this is why I meditate. I sit because I want to feel bliss. And if you tell other people, they go like, what? Tim has bliss? That's not fair. I want to feel bliss. I want that. I want to hear those sounds and have that. Like, I want that also. And then you start thinking that that's a good meditation and it's just a pleasurable sensation. And then that disappears afterwards. So it's not really in and of itself. It just comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. It's just one of the things. It's kind of like trying to imagine if you have sex and you have an orgasm and you think, oh, the orgasm, that is the best part. I'm going to have that all the time. I'm going to look for having orgasms like constantly. that doesn't really work. It's just like a sensation that comes now and then it's gone. So that's a very good approach to having it. Sometimes you have these strong sensations and they will disappear. And if they contain pleasurable sensations, very likely there's distortion in there also, but don't try to push that down or deny it. In other words, you just observe it and then you'll find something even more peaceful behind that. So it's not that you take away, if you try taking away your pleasurable sensation, then that's just going to lead to problems. Oh, it's getting late actually. I need to go to bed. Nice. I like these conversations. It's fun for me as well, and it's good for me to practice to express how to share this, because it's very difficult, and it's easy when I have long-term conversations with people and then we can build this up. And I want to learn how to do that in a situation like this also, where it's more, we just meet like this. Yeah, thank you guys too. I really, I appreciate it. I find it so much fun having these conversations. There's a feeling in me that is peaceful, and it doesn't really matter so much how it goes for you, but I am happy to be able to help. I am happy to feel like what I do makes it easier for you to experience a nice life. So there's this feeling of wanting to help, and wanting to help is a good thing. Almost like loving kindness, but without some of the distortions in there. Yes, thank you everyone. I'll see you guys on Monday, and then we'll do the guided meditation as normally. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Writers on the Storm, I come, it's the same schedule all the time. I do Mondays at 8 o'clock p.m. Central European Time, and Thursdays 8 o'clock Central European Time. And it's the same schedule all the time. I will have a bit in advance. You can see on my live page, you can see when the stream starts, and I think you can click waiting and then you'll get a notification. So that's how you would see when I come on. But it's the same time, Mondays and Thursdays, 8 o'clock Central European Time. Oh, throat is giving up. See you guys on Monday. Thank you. Bye, guys.